Right, let's talk about getting into Drive and taking a look at spreadsheets, specifically as it relates to personalizing our students' learning. Now, one of the things we want to talk about is how to get to your Google Sheets. One way to get to your Google Sheets is to go to the Apps Launcher and click on Google Sheets. Another way is to be in your Google Drive and click New and Google Sheets, and you get a blank spreadsheet. One of the other things I want to show you, though, is that if you want to have access to their templates, if you click on that button, I'm going to say no thank you right now, you'll see that here's a variety of templates they have. Now, the only negative in a template is that all of their formulas and built-in things are here. So for example, I started to work with this to-do one, and they've got a lot of formatting here. So it made it difficult to change some of the things that I wanted to change. So that's the only thing I say keep in mind with using a template. Let's go back into a new one. All right, so now I'm going to create that new one. Where did it go? Here it is. So I'm just going to start with a new spreadsheet. And if you noticed, I had some columns that were hidden, and I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is decide how you want to organize it. You need to know your student. How do they work? How do they think? And for me, I think monthly. So you could start that very top line here and just type, you can even add the month right here, like what month is this? So, and then I would create a template first. So let's say I want to do this is going to be Monday. So how I did that was I took the Monday and then I highlighted 3 lines. And then I came over here to format and I merged cells. And that created that. Then to center it, I come over here and I change it to center. Then to format it a little bit and make it bold. Notice I don't have to highlight. That's one of the differences in working in a spreadsheet. So I made it bold. And let's suppose I want to change the font a little bit. Like that one. And I want to make it bigger because I want the days of the week to stand out. And I want to color the background. Let's say I want Mondays to be yellow. It's a bright, shiny day. And that is how you can begin setting up your spreadsheet. Now, I would also suggest setting up columns. So for example, give them the date, and then what is the assignment? I would also have your student identify whether it's done or not. And if you want to add a grade, you can do that. You can do some other fancy things with that. And then to make the cells larger, because assignments is going to be big, I can just come up here to this bar at the top and scoot it over. Then once you start adding things, you can color the sections again. So going back over here to my sample, I actually colored the parts of Monday, not just Monday. Now, how did I link it to BrainPop? That might be a question you might have. So I went over to BrainPop and I searched first for what my student was working on division. So once I found that, I decided I want them to do movie, but you can do any of these. You can do the quiz, for example. Let me log in again. Oh, this was the activity. So we'll just use this one. So this was the division activity. So now I started to do that too fast. So when you find a link up in your browser bar, if you click on it the very first time, you'll notice it turned blue. And it turned blue because it's ready to be copied. There's a couple ways you can copy. You can right click and copy it. You can also use the Command or Control C. That allows you to copy something. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to paste it here. Now, if I just paste it, that big long link. And you'll notice that a lot of times when someone shares a link with you, it's not long like that. And that's because what they've done is created this link and title. So instead, I'm going to type BrainPop division. And then I'm going to click this link button where it says insert link. And this is pretty universal on Google, Word, pretty much everything has that same link. When I click on it, you'll notice it gives me some options. It actually recognized that I said brain pop and it pulled this up. But we wanted to go specifically to that one page. So again, I pasted it. So this time I used the Control V. That's why you didn't see me right click it. I click apply. So now when your student comes onto this worksheet, they just click on that and it takes them where they want to go. You can use this for YouTube videos. You can use this for SchoolTube videos. You can use this for anything you want to have your student not go searching the web. Maybe you want your student to do some research on the Romans, for example, but you really don't want them to go out and search for any possible item on the web. So you find 3 or 4 websites that you think are safe and you want them to go to, and you can put those links right here that same way so that they're only going to the ones you've identified. That's one way to link. Now, another thing that you can do is, I gave an example here, and I'm going to talk about how to create these. In history, for example, maybe you want your student to read for 30 minutes, and maybe your student, maybe you're like me, and sometimes I would have my students do things, my kids do things, and I would forget to have them do it, or forget to have them turn it in. So you could create a reading log, for example, as a Google document, and have them type in that reading log. So let me show you that really quickly how you might do that. So you might go new, create a Google file. I'm not going to do anything fancy to this. I'm just going to call this a reading log. And so I want my student to edit this whenever they're working. So you're just going to come up here and I'm going to save that. And notice right now what I said before, it's coming up kind of with a generic thing, but let's suppose I want to share it with my son. I don't know if it'll recognize my son's note. This particular account's not linked to anybody. So it's not going to find any of my contacts here. So I'm going to send it to myself. Now, if you and your student are all sharing the same account, it's very easy to link it. You would just right here, click Get Shareable Link and make sure, see right now it says anyone can view it. We don't want it to say that. We want it to say off and then copy the link. And then really only you'll be able to view it. So just keep that in mind, that off. That's a really important thing to consider. So we might put here reading log. And then, I don't know why I just highlighted, that's a habit. And now I'm going to paste that link. So again, it's link. This time I right clicked and you'll notice it's got my Google links and apply. And just so you can see, I'm going to click here and it should open up a whole new tab. So then your student could do any work they need to do. So there's a couple ways you can use Google Sheets to personalize your students' learning and help keep them on track. Then when they're done, they can just type done. There's some more fancy things you can do here, but for now, we'll just stick with getting started. Okay. Any questions at the moment? Now notice also my spreadsheet's not titled, but notice when I put my cursor up there, it allowed me to rename it. So I might call this my template before I add anything in it. So rather than adding these links first, I would create a template. So I would have all these, whatever color you want to make them. So I just highlighted those boxes and I turned them yellow. Then maybe you've got Tuesday. Okay, and I'm going to show you a little trick. So I don't want to have to reformat everything. So I'm just going to come down here and paste it and then change it to Tuesday. So I copied the one cell with all that formatting that I had done and then changed it to Tuesday. So if I want to come down here and do that for the next one and so on and so forth, whoops, not there. I hit the undo button, click there. Just a little trick. I try to not do anything more than I have to do. You get the idea on how to copy that. So now once you've created your template, what you can do and you've got it all dialed in, is you can do this file and then make a copy. And I'll show you that in a minute when we've got this a little more dialed in. So now you'll notice down here at the bottom, let me go to my example. Notice right here I've got math and then history and ELA. I will share the template, this right here, this November one. I will share it with you in the email, and then you can do whatever you want to for it. Now, there are these templates for the subject matter expert that your subject matter expert will give you. And so that's kind of a different kind of question. So right here, if you want to have one tab for each subject, you can add them. But what I would suggest is first dial your tab in exactly what you want it to look like, because once you've got one of them set up, you can copy them over and over and over again. So I'm going to go back to my example. So once this is all set, let's say this is everything I wanted it to be. What I'm going to do is go over here. I'm going to copy all of these. I liked how this looked. So like if you get my template, for example, and then you want to take it and modify it and do whatever you want to it, I'm copying everything. What I'm doing is I'm scrolling down on the very, very far left, and I'm copying all of those lines. I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go Control V and paste them all. Now, it kind of spread it over and over and over again, so that was not what I wanted it to do. But I'm going to hide those in a minute anyways. So I'll show you how to do that. So here we go. I didn't want these. See, I didn't want all these cells. So another trick, a cool trick, I'm going to shift and I'm going to select. I'm using the arrow keys and I'm selecting all of those. And now I'm going to hide them. I right click. So much, I know. Start basic. Just copy my template and then go from there. So here you go. I've got 4 weeks worth of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. And it's all been copied, and it's exactly what I want it to be. Now what I'm going to do is come here. You can see the bottom of my screen. And I'm going to click this down arrow right here. And I actually hesitated there for a second because I'm not seeing my green halo saying that I'm sharing my screen. If someone could give me a quick answer in the Q&A that they do see my screen. That'd be great to know. In the meantime, I'm going to click duplicate. Great, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Just wanted to make sure. And so let me do that again. I'm going to hit the down arrow and click duplicate. Now it's got another one. And let's see, I want to do it one more time. There's 4. Then I'm going to rename them. Let's suppose the first one, I want it to be math. So you'll notice I hit that down arrow, again. Click rename. I'm going to call it math. And maybe the next one, I want to call it ELA. Now you'll notice I put math first because I have a credential in math. Now, if I was one of the history teachers, I'd probably put history first. If I was one of the science teachers, I'd put science first. All right, you get the idea. Now they're all exactly the same. See, they all look exactly the same. And then you can make the changes you want to make. So that's a little trick on how to not make this become a lot of work. You can really use some cool features to shorten your meta work. Also, if you've got 3 or 4 students, make your one template and then share it with your different students, or name it for your different students. And I'll show you in just a second how to do that. So any questions at this moment? I'll be monitoring the Q&A on how to just get it started, how to dial it, to do some coloring. You can create your basic titles. This right here, I did the same kind of coloring. Since I copied it, you didn't see that process, but I just selected these columns using the Shift and arrow key, or you can use your mouse. And then I changed the color to being dark gray. And then I changed the font color to being white while it was still highlighted. Okay, so next up, you've got your template. It's all ready to go. You share, you have a family, and rather than creating individual accounts with them, you're sharing one account with them. So what I would do is first begin by making a copy for each student. So I might say, see, one of my students' names might be John. So John's November. And if you have multiple folders, you can actually change where it goes. And so now I have a copy of this exactly like it was for John. And I can come in here and make another copy. This one is going to be for Renee. So now Renee has a copy. So when Renee or John, and they can both be logged in as you, I can be logged in to more than one account at the same time. And so John can be on your same family account and Renee can be on the same family account at the exact same time, different computers. So just keep that in mind if you just want to create one account. Now, let's suppose you have a high school student who has their own Google account. A lot of students do. And Google will let you create an account if you're over 12. Then you can have a copy and they can have a copy. So you could share it with Susie. I'm just going to share it with my address you're all familiar with. So now it's going to send a note over to Susie saying, Mom shared this copy with you. And now Susie can edit it and you can edit it. So you can both look at it at the same time. What's nice about this is that if you put Google Sheets on your iPad as an app, your student can use the app. So if you have young students, for example, on the app, they could click on this link and it'll take them to that website. If you've given their iPad access to the internet, then they can go to those links on their iPad as well. So that's one of the neat things about the sheets. Now, if you are like me, and I have young and I have older students, I have both. And so my younger students, I'm very guarded what they do, and you might be the same way. And so, I only allow them a certain amount of time. I'm very careful about what I want them to do. So I like to kind of monitor what they're doing, how often they have access to the internet. Right now, one of my favorite devices is the Kindle Fire, and it does let you put some of these things on it. It doesn't have a keyboard though, so it makes typing a little more challenging, but it's great for just basic interaction, watching videos, things like that, and very, very guarded. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show this to our families for personalizing their learning for their students, because you may not want your student all over the web, but you also want them doing some things, because we have all these great programs. We have Brain Pop, we have the Destination Math, we have Typing Club, for example, and maybe you want them to log exactly how many minutes they did on your Typing Club, however you want to do it. There's a lot of great ways you can use spreadsheets to organize your school day. All right, now someone asked about the grades. If you want to add points to grades, I had done that here in this one, played around a little bit with that and created this column right here. So if you want to add a feature of summation, one of the things I did learn, you have to be careful, is that you don't merge your cells. So I did run into some problems when I had merged all the way through the grade cell. So if you try this, you'll see how Monday only comes to this line, because when you want to create a summation of a series of cells, it won't work if the cell is merged with a text cell. So I learned that the hard way. Basically, all this is just a formula. So you type the equals and then the word sum, and then literally you will click on the cells that you want to do. So let me show you that. So it types equal, and then the word sum, and then a parenthesis, and it's wanting me to see. I want to sum from here. Oh, what did it just do? It's not cooperating with me. Oh, because I did the wrong button. Okay, don't do that. And I want to go from this cell down to this one. And then I'm going to put the close parenthesis. Hit enter. Then I changed some numbers there, but there it is. Oh, and it's receiving whatever format that had. That's why that's weird. It's in the asset format. Can change it to Allegra. Changes the number. You'll notice it's centered because I must have centered that. If I don't want it centered, just come over here. Can make it left justified or right justified, whatever you want it to be. And that's how to create that. Now the column is a little more complicated, and I'm going to work on some, like a short little video for doing that. But it's kind of a neat feature so your student can see the points. Maybe you might use, when you reach 300 points, then, you know, well, this is the prize you got, or whatever you want. Sometimes students, it helps them to see their progress growing. So that's another little tidbit that I threw in there. Okay. Are there any other questions on that at the moment? Now, for those of you who are using the spreadsheets and you're working with your teacher, so you're trying to share it among your teachers. So you've got your spreadsheet, your grade book, and you're going to share it with your students. So I'm going to kind of jump back to our high school parents here that are on the call with us. And you can see this particular one is just shared with myself and myself, myself as my training domain, and then myself as my IEM self. And like I said before, if you're sharing grades, you want to be very, very careful that it only is shared with one other person. It doesn't have the, look right here right now, I don't want to click that. I do not want it to say anyone can see this. This is my students' grades. I want it to say off. Only specific people can access this. And then I want to be very careful. The people that are listed here is just the teacher of record, maybe my education specialist, my student, and myself, if there's 4 of us that are sharing this document. So definitely check that and make sure that it's only shared with the people you want it shared with. Now, one of the things we have in our school is we have this learning management program called Schoology, and I really hope to see it start being used across the board, K-8. That's one of the things that I oversee here. I'm just going to really quickly, though, log in as one of my student accounts so that you can see how to turn this in. Hopefully I'm remembering my password correctly. Nope. Okay. So let's suppose I have a class and I need to turn something in. I always like to use my test class. And I need to turn in an assignment a little bit on the late side. Actually, the gradebook log would be the better one to do since that's what this is. And all I need to do is come over here and submit for the first time or resubmit it. And go to my resources. And I'm going to go to my apps. And it's what it's doing right now. So the dots, it's trying to see if it has a Google Drive connected to me. And it has, ooh, a different one attached to here. So it doesn't have the one that I wanted. But once you've created that grade book, you would just find it, which I think it's in here somewhere. We'll suppose this is it. And oh, it's because it's wanting to access it. So I've just showed you what happens when you're in one account and it's connected to a different account. So that's why it's not happy right now, because this is not the right account. So I'm going to exit out of this Google Drive. So I might as well learn how to do that. So I'm going to switch. I am going to log out. And then what I want to do is log in. To The right one. There we go. So now it's connected to the right one. So maybe your Google Drive is connected to your student's account, and maybe it's not connected to yours. So those you just saw the process of how do you change what it's logged in as. So now I just want to add this one to my. Now notice when I clicked on it, I can check what it is, but that actually didn't upload it. To upload it, I'm going to click right there, and then or the sample music log, and I'm going to import. That's importing both of those in that same spot. So that's how you would take that grade book that you've created that's shared with yourself as a parent or as a student, with your education specialist, and with your SME or your highly qualified teacher. So I wanted to make sure to show that. And as we move forward using Schoology for other reasons, that is how you can turn something in on our learning management system. All right, so let's go back and let's take a look at, there's Brain Pop, I love that noise. All right, let's go back to our slides. So these are the things I will be sharing the steps on some tips. So I want to start with the simple sheet, design a template like we talked about, color code our days, looking at the time. Add a tab on the bottom, which we talked about that, how to do that. Make a copy for your student. I would do it by month so that the columns don't get too long. And then put it in a folder. So let's take a really quick minute to talk about the folder. And then also I suggested use an image for your early readers. So if you look at my example, if I can find it on all my tabs now, I put a symbol of math on the math page. And you could do the same thing for history. You could have a symbol at the top of history so that your early reader would be able to identify it. You can use images for all of these things, but it does get a little more time consuming to do images. All right, the last thing is the folders. So you'll notice that I suggested creating a folder. So my drive is getting to look a little messy. I only have one folder here. So I would recommend, if you're using a shared Google account for your whole family, is have a folder for each of your students. So let's see, I had Renee was one of my students. So I just created a folder by going new and folder. Then I typed her name, and there she is. Now what I want to do is put that assignment for Renee in there. So one of the things I want to show you, kind of a trick for doing Google Drive. Here we go. See how when I clicked on that arrow right there, my folders came up? Now I'm just going to drag Renee into her folder. That is one way to put it into Renee's folder. Another way would be, say the reading log was Renee's, is to click on it and put move to, and click Renee, and click move. So we've covered a lot of different things today, focused primarily on Google Drive, just working with it as a hard drive. Think of it again as your hard drive in the cloud. It contains applications, things you can do, why we call them apps, and it contains files. It's like your hard drive in the clouds. And what's great is it is accessible everywhere. It also makes it really easy to share something. So, if you have your own account as the mom or the dad, and your student is in the family account, you can have this shared between those two accounts so that whatever you're logged in at, you can check to see your student's progress. All right, I want to take a couple more questions, and I have, I believe, one more poll. Get my polls to launch for us. It's not coming up. There we go. All right, so you should be seeing this on your screen, maybe even twice. How would you rate your experience before today? And then we'll take a look at what you learned today. All right. And so we see a lot of people came in as a novice, and we have one expert. And there are a lot of people who have a lot more spreadsheet knowledge than I do. but I'm finding them to be very helpful for organizing. All right, and then the last one I wanted to look at is hopefully you learned something new today. So some of my questions included how to copy a Google file, how to edit text in a spreadsheet, how to create a hyperlink. All of this is completely new. All right. So it looks like one of the things with how to create a hyperlink, that's exciting. That is probably one of the most useful tools that I learned to do when I first started doing tech, was how to share and create a hyperlink. Now, some people are calling these kinds of documents hyperdocs or things like that. And that's something that a lot of people have been doing for a long time, which is this idea of putting links inside of a Google Doc so that, or a Google file, so that you can kind of organize information. So that essentially is what we've been learning about today, but in spreadsheets, not in docs. And the benefit of the spreadsheet is that it's nice and delineated, but also if you want to be able to tally up grades, it does give you that flexibility to do that, which is kind of a nice feature for your students. All right. So with that, I'm about to wrap up, unless there are some more specific questions for today. I'm going to go back to this topic sheet that we were talking when we started with. So we have covered Google Drive basics, share settings, basic spreadsheets, and touched on and hopefully inspired you to try to personalize your students' learning with sheets. There's a lot of things you can do to connect the different programs that your students have access to, as well as videos, other websites, things you want them to do, and a way to organize. Going back to this, one of the thoughts that I just was thinking through this moment, if you do put, for example, the link to a journal, for example, then when you want to grade it, you don't have to go look for it. Or if you want to just peek at it, you don't have to go look for it. Your student doesn't have to go look for it. By organizing it all in your spreadsheet, your student doesn't have to go to their drive and find the different things that they need. So that's another benefit of those daily things that you want your student to access. You can put right here in their spreadsheet. And having your students learn to type is a good thing. I know that once I've observed some young students that once they learn to type, they didn't mind writing so much. I have worked with some third graders and fourth graders that really I saw their writing explode once they began to type, because when they wanted to make changes, it wasn't such a painful process to change it. Didn't require a lot of recopying and that kind of thing. So really want to encourage you to try that out, and watch for some upcoming webinars on using Google Docs and other types of files and using it in a way that you can personalize your learning. All right, I'm going to wrap up this meeting with that. With that last poll, hopefully everybody gained something today and felt like they learned something and they grew. I'm going to turn back on my webcam and say goodbye. So I'm so glad that you came to this webinar today on Google Drive and spreadsheets, and hope that it was a benefit to you. And thank you also for being a part of our school. I'm very grateful for Innovative Education Management's personalized learning approach, and I hope you are too. Have a great day.